Yeah, we did. We made it to adulthood, go figure. Darwin was wrong. It is not survival of the fittest. It is survival of he who bounces highest. It would do weird things. I remember one time, my grandmother's house was 2 stories on one side, and my uncle had, at one of the homes that they had torn down, had a trampoline that had been abandoned. So he brought it home for us because the man wasn't thinking. And the boys, you could see them, they were like little ants, and they're taking the trampoline down to the lowest point of the yard. And the next thing you know, they're climbing up the side of the house because they knew my grandmother would kill them. And they're going up the side like little ants, and they're getting up on the roof, and I'm like, they're not going to do what I think they're going to do. Yes, they are. 3 broken legs.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. There's just some stuff that's a bad idea. Luckily, I did not participate. I merely laughed and called for the ambulance. Y'all still want me to pick on the family, I see. Okay.
I know from the books you have talked about like the Greek gods and goddesses, but have you ever thought about delving into the Eastern gods and goddesses, like from Japan or Asia?
I have actually. I do like the Asian. I do like the Sumerians. I've done with them a little bit. I would love to get more into Indian mythology. So I hope to live long enough to really explore a lot of. Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff I want to do even with the Celtic pantheon. So.
Yeah, you've got the equivalent of Artemis in the Morrigan.
Do what?
You got the equivalent of Artemis in the Morrigan.
Well, I don't have Morgan, so.
Oh,
yeah, see, I
Complete.
live with a little bit. And Camulus. There was a question over here?
Yeah, you've got 23 books now for the Dark Hunters, and you've got the characters in the League. Have you got planning on doing books like that far up to 23 books, or do you just write them out until?
I write until yeah. It's weird. I hope to write for many more books. No, they're open-ended series, so I know how they end if I ever get bored. But, like I said, I've been doing Dark Hunter now for well over 20 years. I'm not bored yet, so I don't think I'll ever get bored. Just because one of the things that, I was a huge science fiction fan growing up, and there usually comes a point in a series where, especially if it's based around one character, it gets boring, and you just don't care anymore. So I tried to, when I was structuring this, to leave it so open that it would always give me like our own real world. We would always have these different places we could go to explore, and there'd always be something new and unexpected. So as long as we're all staying entertained, I hope to keep writing them.
How long are you here for? I mean, do you have plans for doing a little bit of travel, or do you have to keep going where you're learning?
Darn you, Columbus, Ohio. We did Columbus, February?
Yeah.
And so I have to be home in time to go to Columbus on the 16th.
Right.
I don't get to play over here. I wish I could. But I got over here, so I'm happy. To what?
You have a couple of days.
But from here, I think there's only 1 day off because I'm doing this one, Birmingham, and then in London. Oh, and then Paris. Oh yeah, I forgot about that city. They would be very unhappy if I forgot about that city.
Can I just say, as an American living here, go to York sometime.
Really?
Nottingham's interesting. We've got, your ghost tours here, but York is just really fascinating.
I would love to see York. Only the Battle of York, Harold Andrada. I love medieval history. Plantagenet is my thing.
The Shambles is worth walking at night.
Yes, and I want to bring my son over because he's actually a history major too, and he loves Imperial Rome.
Oh yes.
So yeah, and I'm all about the Celtics. I'm like, we kicked your butt. You get this
Yeah,
wall.
it's funny because they were digging a cellar at one of the pubs and they found a Roman bath. And when we went in there, one of the archaeologists, which is what my daughter's studying, said, "Did you know that you're Viking?" Just by looking at me, because my earlobe is telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the weirdest things that you point out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But I know that you like the paranormal, so that's why I suggested you here.
Well, I was supposed to go dig a 9th century Irish monastery when I got pregnant with my oldest son, which I've held over him every day of his life. But for you, you, I would have been knee-deep in Irish soil in a monastery. I hate your gut. No, I don't hate you. I love you dearly. I gave it up for you. You can never backtalk your mother. And it was funny when he was little. Now he's really starting to understand what archaeology is and to really get into it. And like I said, he loves Imperial Rome. And one of my friends did a North Italy excavation, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. And I actually have one of the rings from it, and I gave it to him. He's like, oh, it's a real Roman ring! Yes, and if you lose it, you will miss a finger. But yeah, and now he's starting to go through. I have a couple. I don't have very many artifacts because they don't let us keep very much. But he's going through some of the stuff, going, okay, what's this? I'm like, it is an 8,000-year-old arrowhead. Ha! So yeah, and we do have stuff that I did do some of the digs that in America that are now sitting probably in the basement of a museum. But the museums have added to their collection, so it's very cool.
You drink like a lot of Native American because you weren't Native American, or?
No, ironically, not really. I did it because it was local, and to excavate overseas, there's a lot of paperwork, and unfortunately, I started having children and couldn't do that because I didn't want to be one of those people who, my husband's military, his family's military, my family's military, and I didn't want to move my kids around constantly. Is that why you're here? Are you military? Oh, God love you. I wanted to be you. I tried to come, and then I met my husband. He changed my world. It was not fair. I did. I had my passport. I was so coming to England to live, and then I got married. But it was worth it.
I met my husband online. So.
Oh, did you? Oh, have fun. I know who I want it to be, but there's actually a fun character that you're going to meet, and it may end up being him. But I haven't decided yet. It's kind of between him, Thane, and Chayden. I haven't decided which one.
And what do you think about people downloading books and digital books and self-publishing instead of going the more traditional route like yourself?
I think if it's getting your book out there, I think you should do it. People write generally, with a handful of tiny exceptions that I've met. We write for the characters. We write because we want to share these weird little things that we've created with other people. And so, for a writer, the most important thing is we live for that one person to look you in the eye and go, I love what you wrote. And any way that you can get that out there, I'm behind it. That's what I was telling my son. I'm like, I was one of those people, New York didn't know what to do with me. And it took a long time to get published. I've had a lot of in my career because I don't write strict genre. I write a mixture. And so it's like, where do we put her? We don't know. She's got elements of horror, she's got elements of romance, elements of science fiction, in fantasy. Where does she go? And I never really fit comfortably in any niche. But at the time that I was getting started, they didn't have ebooks. So I didn't have that option. But anymore, it's such a great, there are things in New York and that a traditional publisher can do that you cannot do on your own. And that's the truth. But then again, if you're having a hard time getting into one of those, into traditional publishing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking the bull by the horns and doing it yourself. So it's just, but it's a lot more work. The traditional publishers give you marketing. I'm able to come over here. If I didn't have a publisher behind me, there's no way I could be, hands off to be Atkiss and Shep for letting me come and play with you guys. Otherwise, I'd still be over in the States.
What was the inspiration behind Bubba and Mark in the Chronicles of Nick series?
Where do Bubba and Mark come from?
Oh dear.
What do I want to say? This public record. Contrary to what my family thinks, they're not that interesting. Yeah, they are. Bubba and Mark, they're a weird amalgam of people I've known all throughout my life. One of the things that I wanted to do that I get really tired as a Southerner, we are not stupid. And we're always portrayed as these toothless, bumbling hicks. And if you've ever seen the TV show Justified, even when they're uneducated, Southerners are not stupid. They're very intelligent, they're very devious. And they are their own little, and so with Bubba and Mark, I wanted to show what Southerners really are like. Because they do some weird things and, let's have some roadkill pizza. That's not normal, I don't think. But at the same time, they do things that are, well, we're human. They do things that are really stupid. They do things that are really smart. And I wanted to show that not everybody in the South is uneducated. Not everybody in the South is, named Bubba.